Maybe on mute.
We should be ready. Are you all ready? Okay. Okay, let's start. I think it's 7.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Live with PF and Pastor AK.
It's good to be with all of you again.
Absolutely.
Tonight we have a very really important topic that we want to address, and that's men's health. You know, there's a lot of emphasis and a lot of talk about women's health issues. We hear about it every day, and not in a bad way, but you know, there's a tendency not to remember that there are challenges that men face that need to be addressed, and we have a large community of men, you know, that we interact with, that we pastor. You know, there's a story that there's an experience I had that makes this really important for me to do. A few years back, a friend of mine, young guy, you know, very nice guy, great guy. You know, he takes a trip to London, and he goes to Oxford Street to do some shopping, and he gets out of one of the underground stations, and just coming out of the underground station, he has a stroke. This he must have been what? How old was he?
Was about 41 or 42.
41 or 42. And what saved him was that there was a nurse, somebody who recognized the symptoms of a stroke, who was able to, you know, get him help. And because he was he was in England, they brought in an air ambulance and got him to the hospital.
Yeah, and she had already prepped the ambulance with, you know, and done his vitals and just given them blow by blow. So they were prepared to hit the ground running. What he actually had was what you call a catastrophic stroke, which is the kind that literally kills in minutes.
Right. To the glory of God, he survived. He's doing well. It's been a long journey. It's been a challenge, you know, and my hope is that this kind of conversation, this kind of show will help us not to find ourselves in that situation where, you know, we have an event like that. Because some of those events, only the mercy of God, only the grace of God, you know, do people survive them. Thank God that my friend survived it. Thank God that he's doing well. But, you know, it's really a dangerous place for us to be, not knowing what is going on in our bodies.
That's one case where ignorance is not bliss.
No, ignorance is not bliss.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is that a lot of these things are actually preventable. And, you know, the changes that you have to make, the things you have to kind of watch out for are sometimes really simple things that, you know, simple minor lifestyle changes in some cases, and just knowing what to watch out for can make the difference between, you know, a survival and not surviving, or it being really, you know, the outcome being very negative and the outcome being positive.
Yes, you know, to make changes, you need to know that changes need to be made, right? To take care, you need to know that care should be taken.
You need to know what kind of care.
You know what kind of care.
Yeah.
You know, if you are going around thinking that, you know what, all is well, there's nothing to worry about. Unless I feel pain, I'm good. And if I feel pain, I can walk it off, you know, then you are in danger of having, God forbid, a bad thing, as we say in Africa, a medical event. A lot of Christians and young people, particularly young Christians, they live off this assumption that their faith means that, you know, they are immune from medical challenges. And the Bible tells us that in this world we will have troubles. In this world we will have challenges. If you walk around not paying attention to your health, not paying attention to your body, what you're doing, and then you're saying to yourself, "Oh no, God got me. God is going to sort me out. God is going to look after me." But you don't do the work that needs to be done. It's almost like you're tempting God. You're saying to God, I'm going to jump off this 25-story building, and I'm going to trust that you're going to catch me. So what we're hoping to achieve today is give us some information that will help us, that will inform us, that will help us manage
Our health.
our health.
And we're going to be focusing on, at least 25 and above and older, because one of the things that we've also realized is that a lot of people feel like it's not something to worry about right now. I'll worry about it when I'm a little bit older. But then by the time we're older, we're actually, in some cases, paying for the way we lived when we were younger.
Yeah, so what we're going to do today is we're going to invite some people to share their experiences with us, because there's nothing like hearing from the horse's mouth. So we've got one of our brothers with us, and we've also got Yomi Ojutalayo. We're not going to share his name for privacy reasons, but I'm happy that he could call in and talk to us. And then Yomi also is going to be off camera. So guys, thank you for joining us.
We appreciate
we really
that.
appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. And Yomi, thank you also for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me.
And we know your stories would bless somebody, and could literally save a life or more.
Amen. So we'll start with our brother. Can you tell us about your experience? What as much as you're willing to share.
For me?
Yes.
Okay. So mine started 3 years ago. A few months after I lost my dad, so I started getting sick. So at first I thought it was maybe because I just lost my dad. I was not taking it serious. So I started feeling like a constant pain, joint pain all over my body. Like it got so bad where my mom had to like sometimes change my clothes and help me with shower. But then we decided to just go to the hospital and do tests. So I went to multiple hospitals, saw a lot of doctors and did all kind of tests, did blood tests, HIV tests, everything came back negative. But still, I could not sleep. I was feeling pain, and then at one of the hospitals I went to, they want to go get a specialist, so a rheumatologist, and he diagnosed me with systematic lupus. That's what he called it. As an African, I'm like, you know what? Let me just be. As a Nigerian, I'm like, we don't have this in my family. I don't believe this. So at first, I started taking the medication they asked me to take. So I got better. So out of ignorance, I stopped taking the medication. So at first I broke down, got sick again. I went back, started the medication, got better, stopped again. And then last year the same thing happened. They got better, stopped taking the medication, and then same thing again. So, but the reason I'm sharing this is this year. So this year, I got a new job. I was happy. I was doing good health-wise. I was doing good in life. And then come March, I started getting like really, really weak. So like I would sleep like 10 hours and then still be tired. So I knew something was wrong. And then the COVID thing came. So my job gave us option of staying home if you don't feel well. So I had no idea about COVID, if I had it or not. So I just decided, okay, I was feeling too weak. So I stayed home for a few weeks. you know. So my my siblings and my mom, they would try the what they call it, like the Nigerian regiment, something like that. Like I think they call it agbo or something, where they put
The herbal
uh
teas.
Yeah.
yeah, they put like fruit and everything in water and stuff like that. So on one fateful day, I think it was April, my old landlord son called me, and he was like, my mom left a check for you, come pick it up. So I was too weak to drive, so I asked my brother to take me,
Mm.
and then we went, and we met this guy, and as soon as I took that check from this, no, first when I got to the location, he was running late,
Mm-hmm.
so I was waiting for him, and as soon as so I started feeling like when I was waiting for him, I started feeling dizzy, not dizzy, but I started feeling like I want to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
So I was calling him to hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, I gotta go. And then he came, he gave me the check. I all of a sudden just passed out. And
Wow.
then my brother in I managed to open my eyes in the middle of my brother taking me to the hospital. I all I could remember is just seeing my brother just asking me not to go, not to go, not to go, and then speed and keep speeding, running through all the lights just to get to the hospital.
Mm.
And then when I got to the hospital, they rushed me in and they did the COVID test twice. Both times it came back negative,
Mm.
but the doctor said something is wrong. So they said they was gonna keep me there for a few days and run some more tests and see what's going on. So they did another test and they came back and they said my kidneys were failing. That
Wow.
they almost it's almost done. So that happened because of lupus. Like lupus affected my kidneys. So I immediately picked up the phone. I called my because there was no visitors, nobody allowed. So I called my family and I told them.
Mm.
So yeah, I spent about a month. So from March to April, I was at the hospital. So I was there and I was just going with the treatment and everything. So thank God my rheumatologist they went a good game and he came back and there was something wrong with my fingers. I was losing my fingers, my toes and everything. So
Mm.
he came and he was like, "This we could try something." I don't know if there's any doctors in the chat, but he tried on some. I don't remember the medication, but they had to give me the medication through chemotherapy.
Mhm.
It's the same medication they use to treat cancer, but they gave me that medication. But before the medication, I was already doing dialysis for about 2 weeks.
Okay.
So they started me on temporary dialysis, and the doctors said if no progress, they're gonna put me on a permanent one. So me being so young, I'm 26 years old, by the way.
20.
So I was very disappointed, and but I had no choice. No visitors, no family, nothing. It's just me and papers, and whatever the doctor said, I would just sign and just pray to God. Things get better. So I decided to sign up for this medication, and God being so good, I did the medication, and everything became better.
Mm.
2 days or 3 days later, the doctors came. One of the oldest doctors in the hospital, he came back. He was like, "Sir, I have a good news for you. Your kidneys came back and they're fine, 100% good now."
Thank God.
So
Fantastic.
I just said, "Thank God." I pick up the phone, call my mom, and it was like, "Okay, we'll do two more dialysis and then we stop just to make sure everything is fine, just to monitor." So I did dialysis and I was good. And then stayed there for a couple more days. And then I came back home. Took 2 months off just staying indoors, staying away from people because the doctors want me not to get close to anyone with COVID because it could get really bad.
Yeah.
So after 2 months, I went back to work just, and then come last week, Monday,
Mm.
I wanted to go move my car
Mm.
from street parking. I
Mm.
went down. I live on a three family house, so I live on the second floor.
Mhm.
I went down the steps. As soon as I tried to open the door, I turn around, there was a pit bull right on my leg.
Oh,
Oh wow.
Yeah, so this pit bull bites me in like 5 places.
Oh wow.
So I on Tuesday I did a surgery to take the pit bull teeth out from my leg,
wow.
and then on Friday last week I did another surgery. They stitched most of the leg, but they left one open.
Mhm.
So
Think-
yeah, so that's been my 20
Yeah,
2020. Yeah, that's been my
2020.
2020.
Wow.
it seems
It's been
had a pretty pretty intense time, you know.
Mm.
But we thank God that He saw you through. Yomi, how are you doing? Yomi, do you want to share with us
Oh
what?
wait, I just want to say one more thing before I
Yeah.
get off
So sorry.
because I have to go. So my reason of agreeing to join this call is to encourage everybody that is listening right now.
Mm.
First of all, it's always good to get checked. If you don't feel good, go to the hospital. Don't think about insurance, how much you're gonna pay, this and that. Because we Nigerians, we Africans, we tend to ignore a lot of signs.
Absolutely.
So I am encouraging everybody on this chat now. Please, if you know you don't feel good, go get checked. And also, if the doctor says something, don't, oh, oh, God forbid, this is not my portion. I'm not going to do this. No, just if the doctor said it, if you don't believe that doctor, try another one. But just don't ignore it because there
Absolutely.
is God and there is science.
Absolutely.
Give what, I don't know how this says. They say give what belongs to Caesar, and give what belongs to God to God. Is that how it goes?
Yes.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that quote. So yeah, I'm just trying to encourage everybody.
Thank you
You
very
know,
much.
don't ignore everything. And thank you guys for letting me share my story. And
I
God bless
Appreciate
everybody.
appreciate you for
you.
coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, Yomi, how are you doing?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. We're very well. We're grateful that you could join us.
Yeah.
No
You want
problem.
to just share with us quickly your experiences with your health?
Well, I don't. I mean, I'm happy that the brother that just spoke is doing a lot better. But my experience is not as, I don't know, lack of a better word, as detailed as that.
Yeah.
And when a friend called me to join this, the one thing that came to mind was the separation of us as Black men or Black people,
Mhm.
the medical knowledge or
Mhm.
lack of knowledge, and the essential um, spirituality that comes with health.
Mhm.
Because we deem a lot of things as quote unquote a spiritual attack, which could be the case, but prevention is always better than cure.
Mhm.
Um, I lost my mother about 5 years ago to breast cancer.
Mhm.
Um, and every day, my brothers and I, we review how it happened, the progress. And one thing that we always say to each other is, if we had caught it at an earlier time, she
Mhm.
would still be here.
Absolutely.
So with my personal experience now, and one of the reasons why I'm even sharing this is I want to, I want to emphasize the critical component of getting frequent medical checkups.
Mhm.
I myself am guilty of this, that I don't go, but I am lucky enough and blessed enough that my personal doctor is my brother. So he literally he could call me on a random day. You know what I mean? I ordered this test for you. Go get this checked. Tell them to send me the results.
Mhm.
That's the luckiness of me being in that family. Not everybody has that, in their family. So I think one of these days when he called me, now this is something that I was battling with for a long time. I think probably early last year or 2018, I was getting a lot of heartburns. I was burping a lot. And, as a Nigerian, you eat spicy food all the time. So you're thinking, you know what? It's going to pass.
Makes
You
sense.
know, it's going to pass. Drink some ginger ale, bitter lemon if you have it, and then everything will be fine.
Mhm.
The funny thing is I never even told him that I was having that issue. So I guess he went to the doctors, even as a doctor himself, he went, got himself checked. And then there was something that he brought to my attention. He said, well, I want you to do this test as well it might be bothering you and you don't even know it. And I even did some research on the disease itself, that it affects roughly about 50% of the population.
Wow.
And it's called Helicobacter pylori, H. pylori.
Yeah.
And can lead to ulcers, stomach cancer, and things of that nature. Now, if you catch it earlier with a urea breath test, get the results, be on 2 weeks antibiotics, and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
So when he told me about that, I said, well, maybe that's why I've been having, because when you get heartburn, you just, okay, let me take this medicine, take that medicine, I'm fine. And it became a systemic issue.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to go get the test done, I realized that I actually did have it. And they come to find out that my brother had it, my other brother had it as well. So it became okay, this is where we grew up in Nigeria. It's possible that, when we were kids, we had this issue and we never knew. 90% of people that have this don't even know that they have it until it becomes too serious.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the essential component of getting yourself regularly checked. So even after being on 2 weeks antibiotics, then, I went into this monitoring phase and making sure that I don't have it anymore and things of that nature. And I felt like that part of even my healthcare journey became, a little bit, it was scary to think about, because if I did not have that in my corner, only God knows what would have happened.
Yeah.
That's a really, hearing you, it just makes me it makes me glad that we're doing this show, but I kind of feel like someone just poured cold water on me, if that makes any sense.
Like a reality check.
Yeah, because
it's one of those things, and it's like, even during the time where he wrote all those scripts for me to go get tested for X, Y, and Z, they drew so much. I've never been to a hospital and they drew so much blood out of me. And I'm asking, what's the problem? So, your doctor didn't tell you what you're getting done? I said, no, he just told me to go to a hospital and just get blood drawn. Mm-hmm. So the amount of tests and the amount of panels that he had requested was basically to, find out if there's anything wrong.
Yeah.
Even at that moment, I found out that, okay, my A1C, which is my blood sugar, was a little bit too high, that I was actually pre-diabetic at that time. Mm-hmm. Never knew until just that panel came out. Mm-hmm. And even finding that out, like my entire life, I've always been on the bigger side of everybody around me. Mm-hmm. Based on if you go based on the BMI chart, I've been overweight my entire life. Mm-hmm. But finding out what ails you or what you can do to make yourself a little bit better, make yourself a little bit healthier, just going to the doctor frequently, if which is going into, insurance and how you're going to pay for it. Not everybody is, privileged to have those, funds and abilities to do that, understandable. But if you do, once you can, it's one of those things that the older you get, right? The older you get, the more important it is that you should have got it done, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yes, it makes sense.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you a question. Really
sure.
Quick. So your brother got a diagnosis for the H. pylori, right? And then he was worried about you as a consequence of that. So his diagnosis is what booked the test.
Yes.
Okay, and then your other brother was also.
And then my diagnosis invoked my second brother's test.
Oh, really? Okay, so once he had it, you had it, it became very likely that your brother would have it.
Yeah, and there's only 3 of us. So, you know what? There's a big chance.
Okay, so.
And then they end up having it as well.
Okay. And they discovered this just a blood test.
It was a urea breath test.
Okay.
They give you a solution and you blow your breath into a bag and then they test it.
Okay.
So it looks like you did a whole battery of tests.
And I did a whole bunch of tests. But
the pre-diabetic one was there any other signs? Did you have any signs or any kind of warning?
I did not.
No symptoms whatsoever.
No symptoms whatsoever. I did not. I mean, I wasn't an active gym member, right. But I wasn't, I wasn't out of breath after every single thing. And you kind of know the major symptoms. My mom was also diabetic. So you know the major symptoms. Okay, they urinate a lot, you know, and if you get like too much of a high blood sugar, they can pass out, they can get a jittery, you
But
know. So
none
you
of that was
kind of
going
look
on
out
with
for
you.
those things.
None
But,
of that was going on.
Say that again?
So none of that was going on with you.
None of that was going on. So being pre-diabetic is actually as dangerous as being diabetic.
Yeah.
But I just never knew up until I went for that test, and you know, the doctor gave me the results, and I'm like, I don't even know what it means. Mind you, I'm in the medical field myself. I'm like, I don't even know what this means. Send it to my brother. He calls me and he says, you know what, you are pre-diabetic. You probably should stop, you know, the bread, cut down the rice a bit. I'm like, that's difficult. As a Nigerian, you know, it's difficult to just cut down rice, but you know, with God, we can do it.
You know something. You know something else, Yomi, that I want to ask you.
Sure.
So, when you got this diagnosis, right? How did you feel? How did you feel in the moment when you were told that your heartburn, regular heartburn,
was
actually a little bit more serious than that?
It was a combination of fear and relief.
Okay.
Fear because at this point now I have to take this antibiotic that hopefully works. Because now I'm aware of the dangers of if they didn't catch this. So you're in that limbo of, okay, this is happening. If it works, we're good, which is the relief component.
Right.
But now you're knowledgeable as well to know what happens if it doesn't work.
Gotcha.
And antibiotics is very specific to the person.
Yeah.
You know, if you've been taking antibiotics for something else, the same, you might be in a position where, you know, you're the word is skipping me right now. Like you build resistance to the antibiotics.
Yeah.
You know, and
Which
if you ever
are becoming, because we do have a tendency, also from our background, to use them
medicate.
We have your brother joining us.
That's my PCP right there.
Dr. Ayo, thank you for saving your niece's life.
Thank you for having me, sir. Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate you joining us. We have a few questions, you know, that we want to ask you. You know, Yomi's experience, you know, just having heartburn. Yeah. And I can't remember the number of times that I had heartburn and just took a couple of Zantac or Pepsi, you know, and moved on. You know, to find out that there can actually be more to it than the fact that you ate spicy food is actually the point of this program.
Or finding out from a routine blood test. You know,
the interesting part is this is the first time I was actually hearing that I was afraid of that aspect.
Yeah, it was
You never knew that I was scared of it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Anyway, so we had some questions we want to ask you. What are some of the common and not so common risk factors that men, and particularly men of African descent, need to pay attention to? You know, we know that if you have a temperature, you know, and you are coughing, you know, you might have gotten the Rona, right?
Yeah.
So everybody, you know, once you cough twice, you gotta take your temperature. Yeah. You know, but generally, you know, what are some things that you would like to say to us as Black men to watch out for? You know, are you sleeping too much? Are you peeing too much? You know, just generally.
Yes. So yeah, so the first two most important is always our blood pressure. And so, and also diabetes. Those are I would say are the big parts. And I always tell everyone one of the risk factors is just being Black. You know, we have a higher risk of high blood pressure. We have a higher risk of strokes. We have a higher risk of diabetes. We have a higher risk of kidney failure.
Wow.
So when we think about those things in that perspective, we begin to say, okay, what are the things that we need to watch for before those things get into trouble. And so making sure that our cholesterol is fine, our blood pressure is good, our routine checkup is done every year. And it's what I always tell everyone, it's once in 365 days, and you're only with the doctor for 30 minutes. Making sure we do some of those things has a long-term advantage over time. So basically, I would say yes, the high blood pressure is always one of our biggest factors. Diabetes is. In terms of sleeping, I mean, if we can have sleep apnea, which can affect our heart as well. I always tell everyone, if you wake up in the morning and you don't feel refreshed, you should think about it again.
So it's not
And
as if you are fighting demons in your sleep.
exactly. So it's not demons, it's not it's not the witches from the village that is right.
That you don't let you sleep tonight.
Exactly. So we talk about things like sleep apnea, and people say, well, what does that really mean? And I say, studies have shown over years, if you have sleep apnea, you have a risk of heart attacks and strokes as well. And those are things that we don't think about because we wake up and we sort of struggle through it and kind of walk through life. Um,
Sorry to interrupt. Can you explain the sleep apnea just a little bit for those who are not in the medical field?
Medical field.
What apnea means?
So most of the time, there's always two reasons why somebody would notice they have sleep. They wake up in the morning and they're tired, and you shouldn't be, or the person that stays with you at night, your spouse, your girlfriend, parents say, it looks like you're gasping for air at night.
Gotcha.
And what's that telling us is that while you're sleeping, you're actually not taking in enough oxygen. So your brain is not sleeping. So I always describe it as if you're not getting enough oxygen while you're sleeping, your brain is still working and trying to fight that. And so you're as good as somebody who works nights every day, even though you're sleeping at night.
Gotcha.
And so what?
One of the symptoms is excessive snoring.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So excessive snoring is also something to look at. Not everybody that snores have sleep apnea.
Right.
So where we say that, but it's always a reason to look into one of those as well. And so it's almost imagining that you don't sleep for years. And that's exactly the way to think about it. So if you don't sleep for years, eventually your body would break down. And so those are the things that we look for. And most of the time, the treatment is always a CPAP, which is a machine that helps to force air into your lungs and give you that oxygen over time. And so we take that very seriously because as you get older, your brain is not getting enough oxygen and eventually damages the blood vessels and eventually causes strokes and heart attacks as well.
I heard
And
also
so
dementia in some cases. Is that correct?
it is correct. For any reason you're not getting enough oxygen in the brain, eventually the brain tires out, and so you would expect some of that as well. So those, I would say, are common things that I tend to see most men, since we're talking about men here, that they don't necessarily follow through with sleep with their sleep because either they've worked a lot and they think the reason why they're still tired in the morning is because they worked last night, or it's witch or witchcraft, or somebody was chasing me in the middle of the night, or somebody in my villages were chasing me. And also sleep apnea increases depression, it increases high blood pressure. So everything sort of, it's the whole body system is into one.
You know what something as simple as how you feel when you wake up, can point to a bigger problem.
True.
So the way that I think as a man, I wake up, I'm not feeling fantastic, but I'm just thinking,
I gotta go to work.
I gotta go. The grind, the hustle, and I just get up and I go and I don't pay any attention to it.
But we get used to not feeling well.
True.
We actually get used to pain. We tend to ignore. I mean, you talked about, for instance, I mean, you talked about having heartburn for a long time, and you just got used to the discomfort instead of actually checking it out.
By the way, I mean, so what did you do for the? What was the solution to the heartburns?
Oh no! After I had the urea breath test, it was diagnosed that I actually had H. pylori. So he put me on about 2 weeks of um, two different or three different antibiotics. It was very uncomfortable 2 weeks of my life, and after that, it was, we got to a point where this is where I get to, in my mind, this is how I work. You know what? Okay, we've done it your way. Now let's confirm that it worked.
Okay.
So what usually gives me heartburn if I eat spicy food, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go eat spicy food today. If I still get the heartburn, then we need to call the board of medicine, and you and I need to talk. So ever since then, even if I get heartburn now, it's very short-lived.
Okay. It's
And
a
now it's
normal.
become more so like I'm getting heartburn because of extremely spicy food. I drink water and I'm fine.
Gotcha.
Normally it was I get heartburn and it lasted hours. I couldn't sleep. It gets to a point I'm getting migraines because of it.
And you just ignored it.
And I just ignored it because you know what? Maybe, okay, I'm getting older. And a lot of Nigerians do these things where, if you're getting sicker, you don't look at the disease, you look at your age and say, because I'm getting older, my body's not what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't look like you're old enough to be thinking that, though.
I'm 33 years old.
Wow.
Okay, yeah,
Wow.
at 33,
No,
you shouldn't
and that's
be
the
thinking
thing,
it's
though.
still
I'm
getting
33
older.
years old. I'm 33 years old, and this is just the mentality that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where, I've been to Nigeria. So I was born in Nigeria. I've gone back several times. I live as a typical Nigerian man with the food and X, Y, and Z. And now, even at 33, like, you know what? Maybe it's because I'm getting old. That's why my body's shutting down on me like this. Because 2 years ago, I wasn't having this problem.
Yeah,
Last year, I wasn't having this problem.
33 now.
Yeah,
It's become a mentality where we're not looking at the
that's
disease.
what I want to ask Dr. Ayo. So, there's a tendency, right, to think that I'm good until I'm 40. 40 is the point at which I start worrying and paying attention to my health. Is that really safe, to wait until we're 40? Is that a reasonable assumption? I mean, we've seen with Yomi that it wasn't so reasonable, right? But is that just a Yomi thing?
Because somebody listening might be thinking, oh, that's
Yomi. Me, I'm
So
32.
no. So just to make a comment about what your experience, one of the things that we pay attention to a little bit more with H. pylori is when you have a heartburn and the heartburn continues, your esophagus isn't meant to have acid there, and that's what you're getting. You're getting acid in that area, and that's why it hurts. Over time, it becomes cancer long term. So there's been a lot of association with H. pylori and esophageal cancers or stomach cancers. So it's not just living through the heartburn, it's also the fact that 20 years from now, there is a risk of cancer. And so that brings me directly to your question, which is perfect, is what are the things that we need to do now to improve our longevity in the future? Some of the things we see that I see, and I tend to attract a lot of young patients because I'm young. So we tend to see a ton of people within that age 20 to 40. And one of the things that we see a lot of is high blood pressure. So a lot of these folks coming with high blood pressure. Do they need to get treated? If it's too high, yes, we should treat. If it's not, it's a feedback. Then you need to exercise. You need to do these things because it's not unusual to see a 33-year-old now with high blood pressure. One, because there's more overweight. So people are more overweight. So people are not as active. We're all Zooming now with COVID. We have cars. Our jobs is from office to work. So the lifestyle has changed. And so when you start to think about a 35-year-old with high blood pressure or diabetes, when we see that, or pre-diabetic, who has damaged their blood vessels with high blood pressure, by the time they're 50, we're talking strokes and heart attacks or congestive heart failure, or, if it's diabetes, you're having the same issue. So
sorry. So what you're saying is that the strokes and the heart attacks that happen in your 40s and 50s, right? The foundation is laid in your 20s and 30s.
exactly.
Wow.
And so that's why, working on our health now, whether we need medication or not, but having that feedback that, okay, your blood pressure is getting high, what do you do? Or nature or nurture, is it genetics? Your genetics is so strong that no matter how much exercise or diet you do, you need to take medication because you're going to damage your arteries. And a couple of years from now, you would end up with a coronary artery or transplant of some sort.
And it's not a curse. It's not a curse.
Exactly.
It's just
that this you just keep leading into the next question that I want to ask, because you now start talking about the genetics, right? There's a tendency to think that if I eat right, if I don't eat a lot of junk, I shouldn't have cholesterol issues.
I can outpace
if I work out a lot, I should not have high blood pressure, right? So the question I wanted to ask you is, what are some genetics influence issues that we need to watch out for?
So, you're absolutely right. So even still within the same context, it's, there are people that are extremely active, they run a lot and they do everything they should, and the genes just fight against them. Their blood pressure is high. There's just nothing you can do. So how do you prevent that is, having your physical and having that feedback that once a year. And I always tell everyone, it's only once a year. It's about 30 minutes with your doctor, having that feedback and doing your blood work and making sure that your kidneys are fine, your liver is okay, your sugars are okay, your cholesterol is okay. Because even if you eat healthy and genetically, there was a study that was done on some part of Europe where people there had, which is the LDL, that's the number, the bad cholesterol was in the 40s. The studies have shown that if your LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, is less than 70, then you shouldn't have any plaques. Plaques are things in the blood vessels that allows people to have strokes and heart attacks. And genetically, they beat, no matter what they eat, it's in the 40s, so the arteries is nice and clean. And then there is us, which is mostly African Americans or Africans. We tend to have more plaques, and our cholesterol tend to be high no matter what. But depending upon whom you come from genetically, it might not be as bad as others. So how do we know who is going to do well by just diet, and how do we know who just needs to take medication eventually? It's going to be a lot of testing, physicals.
Before we go on, let me just release Yomi so that he's not just sitting down here with us. Yomi, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
No problem. I was enjoying it anyway.
Okay, good, excellent. Well, thank you very much. We really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And we have some more panelists that are going to come on. While the other panelists are coming on, I want to ask Doc another question. Like you said, how do we know who is predisposed to what? Is there a way to tell what your genetic predisposition is? And the reason why I asked that is because I was diagnosed with high cholesterol
in his blood.
Right. And then they said to me that I needed to just, cut out a bunch of stuff from my diet. And I did. But the cholesterol didn't go down significantly. And then they said, I had to
put me
on medication for it. And it was a bit tough, mentally to accept that I was going to be on this kind of medication for a sustained amount of time. What would you say
side effects?
With possible side effects, the statins and all that? What would you say to the young men who at this young age, right, may have to be put on these maintenance medications, for blood pressure, for cholesterol, for blood sugar, because they are genetically predisposed, not just because they are eating bad or not exercising right?
I met a lipidemiologist about 2 weeks ago. It's interesting you said that, and I kind of picked his brain a little bit more. Why anybody will go and study cholesterol for 20 years, I don't know. But and so one of the conversations, you asked exactly the same question, and every patient asked the same question. And we threw it at him. A couple of doctors said, there is risk to all these medications, and these people has high cholesterol. And he said, look, it's about risk and benefits. If you take away the medicine, then if the cholesterol continues to get high, then they will have the heart attack, which is granted. Or, you say, well, the drug isn't the greatest thing in the world, and there might be side effects, but the alternative is worse. And unfortunately, that's the sell. The alternative is worse. And that's sort of where we are.
Excellent.
Until we can find something else, some other way to treat the patients.
Excellent. I have one more question for you specifically on this issue, but I just wanted to, acknowledge Brother Jude. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Hi, Brother Jude. How are you?
How you guys doing?
Thank you for joining us as well. I really, really appreciate that you guys could take the time to come on this show. The last question I want to ask Doc before we move on to the next segment is this. There are certain stigmas, cultural stigmas associated with certain medical procedures, right? So for example, if you went to a doctor and they wanted to examine your prostate, they need to do a prostate exam, When you submit to that exam, does that mean you're gay? There's a bit of that, when you say, oh, you're going to get a prostate exam, there's a bit of a cultural stigma attached to it. How do you deal with that? What advice do you say to the young guys who worry about somebody, giving them a prostate exam?
Colonoscopy. They just seem so invasive sometimes.
They do. But let me see if I can rephrase this in a little bit more scary context to you. So if you look in the news, there is something that is so all over the news about disparity in care, right? So among African Americans, there is disparity in care, right? We're not getting as good of a care as our white counterparts when it comes to like the COVID. The same thing applies to studies and research, and even the coronavirus vaccines were not properly represented. So what I always tell everyone is the same thing applies to the drugs that we get when we have cancer. Most of them were not properly represented. So if somebody were to get colon cancer or breast cancer or prostate cancer as an African American, your chances of survival they don't say it as much. They just use the word disparity as opposed to being frank about it. We don't do as well because we're not properly represented.
Wow.
So our goal isn't to get to that point. Our goal is where we have power is prevention. We can prevent ourselves from getting to a point where we have stage 3, stage 4 of some cancer, and we're hoping that these treatments work if we can just prevent it. So if that's enough to get everybody to take it seriously, I think that's the biggest take-home message. So it's not gay or anything to do a rectal exam for a prostate, but also there is a high, the most aggressive prostate cancer is common in African Americans and Africans. So again, there is a lot of reasons why we should take it more seriously than anybody else. So the prostate exams
against that demographic already.
Exactly. So it's stuck against us, and we have disparity in care, and we have disparity in treatment,
and in health insurance,
and then there's everything else that comes along with that. So even with the richest man that is Black, who could still have the most aggressive cancer because he's Black, can afford the best drugs, but the drugs were not geared towards him, still has a loss than a poor Black man anyways. So in those contexts, doing the prostate exams, checking our PSAs and doing our colonoscopies, I think it's bigger. It's more important for us than not.
And how you feel.
Than anybody, than how we feel about
than discomfort.
And the discomfort and the invasiveness and things of that nature. Well, with everything, there's a risk. Like the colonoscopy, there's a risk.
I did one of those rectal exams. It was not pleasant.
They're not, and people say it all the time.
Well, let me tell you what happened. I mean, we're all guys here. Well, some women, but anyway.
I was
I went to the doctor. I go see the doctor, and he tells me, bend over,
Mm.
up my butt, TMI, but anyway, and found out that my prostate had gotten a little enlarged.
Mm.
And it was prostatitis.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just
Inflammation.
Just an inflammation or something.
Inflammation, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and they gave me some medication, and everything went back to normal. But I just kept thinking that okay, so what if I was so concerned about the exam, right, that I ran
Exactly.
away from the diagnosis? I didn't get the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I turned into something else.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we have to sort of look beyond sort of that stigma and say, well, this could be a life and death situation where they can save our life. Can we do it? And these doctors do them every day. So they don't see it as gay. They're trying to save people's lives. And so hopefully everybody sees it that way.
Excellent.
I'm so sorry. Just one last thing before you go. I just wanted you to, if you remember, can you just share that acronym for the signs of stroke? Because the thing about stroke that most people don't realize, the earlier you catch it, the better the prognosis, the better the chance of survival, and the better, how would I put it? Like the less damage, that could occur. And I remember there's an acronym, I think it's called FACE or something, just the signs to watch out for. I don't know if you remember off the top of your head.
I don't remember the acronym itself, but it's always weakness, facial drooping, numbness, difficulty with speech.
Yeah.
I think there's a simple acronym that they use for the patients, but I would say that the simple way is to say, if you have a facial droop, if you have trouble speaking, if you're having trouble with your memory, then you definitely want to, you definitely want to get help.
Quickly.
Whether you hit all the acronyms or not, let the doctors decide.
Okay.
Absolutely. Better safe than sorry.
Doctor,
Thank you.
Don't go. Just stay. We want to bring in our other panelists. Like I said, we've got Brother Jude, fitness, exercise, great guy. We've got Deji. Deji is a nurse anesthesiologist. If am I getting it right? Excellent. So we want to talk about the role that diet, exercise, fitness plays in
and lifestyle
and lifestyle.
Yes, plays in this process. So I want to ask Jude this question: How frequently should men exercise? Because you hear different things.
Yeah.
How frequently should men exercise? What are some of the benefits, right, of consistent exercise other than being buff?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to come here and speak. I think this is a great program, a great platform for our believers, for our African American communities, just to share that knowledge. So thank you for having me and all the wisdom you guys are sharing. So it's a lot of time it could be depending on people work or lifestyle, but I would recommend 2 to 3 times a week to exercise. And if you can't find a gym, and if you're married or single like me, you can always find outdoors work to do, cutting grass, cleaning the windows, finding things, even washing laundry could be a form of exercise, honestly. But just being active and allowing your heart rate to stay up for a good consistent of time. So you can find a wider range of exercises to do, whether you're in the gym, doing the treadmill. I like to do the incline. It's on walking. It's less impact on your knees. And if you are capable of lifting weights, there's 2 types of lifting weights. There's mechanical, which are machines that's already there, that's already have the form, such as the legs workout, some arm workout that's already position you in a right position to work out in a great form. Or we could do compound workout, which is free weights. Free weights are dumbbells, deadlifts, and one of the benefits for that for men is to increase testosterone to help you to lose weight, especially when you do legs. When you do legs, you increase your testosterone level by 30%.
Oh, wow.
All right.
So that's why oftentimes you hear the slogan, never skip leg day. That's a really big thing in the fitness community because it helps produce testosterone and helps you to stay healthier. And if you have a wife, she'll be very grateful for you. And your testosterone.
You hear me when I say that louder for the boys.
Thank you so much, Jude. Doc, quick question. What are some foods that men should avoid, especially as we get older? What are some things that we should stop eating, and why should,
Dial back on.
what are some things we need to cut back on? Because,
guys don't like to hear,
Yeah,
don't eat it.
Yeah. So a lot of red meat is always one of the things. Red meat, yeah.
steak, no steak.
Steak. Well, cut back, not eat them.
Because I like
But-
a good ribeye, a nice.
Well, chicken is better without the back of the chicken as well. So those are supposed to be much healthier.
Okay.
One of the things that we see a lot is even the calories is sugar, the juice, the sodas, and all those. Those are extremely important to cut off. A lot of we want to stay away from as much cheese as we can. A lot of greasy foods. We always recommend baking rather than frying.
Okay.
And we eat a lot of African food, which we obviously should eat our African food, but our rice and our gari and all those things has a lot of calories. So you want to complement it with more vegetables as opposed to more of the higher calories.
Let me ask you a quick question about this, because I have a problem with something you said. I understand sugar. I understand sugar. We all understand that. But what's the problem with meat? What's the problem with meat? Huh?
So meat is considered high calorie, and red meat is high inflammatory. So it anything inflammatory affects your joints, your nerves, your blood vessels. And so when we think about that's why a lot of people actually would say, if I have rheumatoid problems, I want to cut down red meat. If I have some other conditions that is inflammatory, I want to cut down red meat. So in itself, cutting down red meat is not just for the heart and the lungs, but for your total well-being, actually, as much as you can.
Okay, let me ask DJ a question. DJ, thank you for joining us, by the way, because I already asked. Doc has told us about diet. Jude has told us about exercise, right? Which of the two? Because you see, I struggle with doing too many things at the same time, right? If I'm trying to eat right, then I struggle to exercise. If I'm exercising, I struggle to eat right. So which one is more important? I've heard of this thing called the 80-20. What is that? Which one is more important, and what is that 80-20 thing about?
I think I know what you're saying with the 80-20, but I don't know the exact ratio. However, nutrition is the most important. Nutrition is key. It's funny because, so I'm not in the fitness industry, but I think I have a decent balance in my working out and going as my professional, still finding time to do things. And I think it's funny because I used to exercise almost every day, and I was actually trying to shed some weight, and I wasn't doing it because my calorie intake was so much. I wasn't tracking it, and I wasn't losing any weight. Despite working out every day, cardio, all the stuff, you will never lose the weight if you don't eat at a calorie deficit. Deficit meaning the calorie out is more than the calorie in. And it is no way around that. I know our fitness guru could tell us it's not going to happen. You could exercise as much as you want. So nutrition is most important. And I also believe that your cardiovascular health is imperative. You could have all the muscle in the world, but if you're at risk for a heart attack, if you're at risk for high cholesterol, all these things is not gonna is irrelevant. You can be buff as you want, but if it won't matter. So nutrition is number one, absolutely number one. And nutrition helps with the training. So when you're doing fitness, when you're drinking a lot of water, you're eating a lot of vegetables, you're doing your supplements, your vitamins are intact, you're going to exercise better. So without the nutrition, your performance in your professional life, everything's going to fall. Sometimes you have fog in your mind, your brain's foggy, you're thinking about something, you're forgetting easily. A lot of this is nutritional deficits, in my opinion, and just lack of hydration. Sometimes you have a headache. Your headache is really a sign of dehydration. So it really affects every part of your life is your nutrition.
Okay, excellent. Let me ask you the question. So for sorry, I'm taking. Usually,
I'm like, you know what?
Usually there's a
it's men's health, so I'll just let you go.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway.
I'm sitting down here just thinking, okay, I hope he's taking note of all this stuff and he's going to make the changes that he needs to make after this.
Please,
so
can you help me validate this? I walk an average 4 to 5 miles every day.
Good.
That's not bad, right?
That's good.
Thank you.
Nutrition, though.
We're getting to nutrition. Like I said, you know.
See, like that answer you gave was probably not the answer he was looking for. Yeah. Because
the truth is the truth. I tried. I trained every day thinking, oh, I'm training, I'm doing all these challenges, and I wasn't seeing any change in my body composition. I wasn't seeing changes on the scale, and it really all went down to nutrition.
Yeah.
You know, just to piggyback on that, the reason why I have Buff is called Believers United for Fitness, because my lifestyle and the Buff lifestyle is 80% nutrition, 20% fitness, and 100% Jesus.
All right. I like that.
A lot of the time we have self-discipline, self-control issues. And the one person who can help us with self-control and help self-discipline is the man who did die for it all, and that's Jesus Christ. And having the Holy Spirit lead us, not just in a relationship, not just in finance, not just in family, not just in fellowship, but also in fitness in our lifestyle. So when we exclude God from that or exclude God from anything, it becomes an unbalance. So we need an 80% nutrition to help us to be mindful of the portion control. We need a 20% fitness to help the Holy Spirit to tell us go and do something. And we need to rely on 100% on Jesus to put that all together. So when we are lacking in those areas, we need to ask God for favor, for strength, for mindfulness, and for self-control to balance all that in.
I love what you say, because just think about it for a second. If we had financial challenges, we would fast and pray. If we were looking for a new job, we would fast and pray. If we were, trying to get into a relationship, we would take time to, we would bother God and bother God. So how come you never saying, Lord, can you give me the strength and the discipline I need to do the right things for my health?
You know what? And that's the thing I teach. Christians are 30% more overweight than any other religion. Young adults who attend church, 50% of them becomes overweight, and 76% of our leaders in churches, like deacons, pastors, and leaders, are 76% more overweight than the general population. And that's because we're not asking the Lord for a favor. If you look at how sin entered the world through the choice of food. It wasn't Adam burning down the trees or telling God, I'm not going to name animals. It was Adam and Eve choosing the wrong food to eat. And that caused devastation throughout the whole world. And to this day, the wrong food that we're eating are causing devastation to our bodies. So even from the beginning of time, food has been an issue. Nutrition has been an issue, and we're not working for it.
Said like that. I never heard it said like that. The way you said it now has made me feel really bad. I think that statistic, that 70%.
76% of leaders in our churches are well overweight, and Christians as a whole are 30% more overweight than any other religion. And we are supposed to be the religion to lead other people to victory, to be the light of the world. But we're the fattest religion amongst all of them. If you look at Muslim, if you look at the Buddhism, they're very well in shape. They're really, eating right. They eat their vegetables. They stay away from certain things.
Of their religion. Christianity is one place where food is not part of, the religion. So
exactly. You know why? Because there's 5 mechanisms to faith. To our belief. We believe in faith, which is biblical, fellowship, which is biblical, finance, which is biblical, and family, which is biblical. But fitness we don't really talk about that. We talk about these 4, but we forget about our health.
I think the challenge is this, right? It's hard for me to talk about fitness if I'm overweight.
Exactly.
It's hard for me as a pastor to get on the stage and be talking about fitness when I'm looking forward to the fish fry or
just feed their pastors.
Feeding pastors, But let me ask Doc a question here. One of the things that a lot of young people do. Three things that a lot of young men, I think it's an area where we might be vulnerable. I'd like you to speak to that. The way we sleep,
Mm.
Or not sleep.
well, we think we brag on how little sleep we need, right? You know, oh, like 5 hours, all I need is 4 hours of sleep, you know. We drink, right? You know, and we smoke, right? And lately, there's been a lot of moving away. You know, I've heard people say that, you know what, I don't smoke cigarettes, you know, I just do the herb, right? You know, and the herb is healthy, right? So how does these lifestyle choices, because these are choices we make, you know,
There are choices. Yeah.
to sleep or not sleep, to drink or not drink, to smoke or not smoke, to
Whatever
do
it is we're
weed or not do
smoking.
weed, to vape or not vape, you know. How do these lifestyle choices impact our physical health?
So, so there's been, you know, one of the things that I learned when we were in training was that we were always talking about sleep deprivation, you know, which is part of when I was in residency. If you work 36 hours, then yes, you're a real doctor. And then they sort of moved away from that and then started working more at making sure that the doctors were getting enough sleep. But one of the things that stemmed to that was that they found that most people, and people hate to hear when we say this, is that work nights as it is. And so when you work nights, you tend not to, you still function during the day because you still go around. Whereas those of us that work during the day, we sleep at night. Or if you don't sleep well. But the night workers were the very good ones we've used for the studies, and extrapolate over the years as they get into retirement. There's a higher percentage of people developing cancers from sleep deprivation.
Oh, wow. I worked overnight for 12 years.
Exactly. And so that was a big push about working towards people not burning out and working less nights. And so they changed a lot of our trainings because of that reason. And so if you think about it, people that work nights will still stay awake during the day for many reasons, right? You know, that's when things open. That's when people do stuff. So with that, your body goes through, you live through stress. Your body is always stressed over years. And eventually, one of the strong evidence is cancers come very quickly with very poor immunity. And you know, these are things we still don't understand very well. And so sleep is extremely important. Um, any vaping, any smoking, you name it, is bad for the lungs. There hasn't been, whether it's weed or whether it's herbal or anything of that nature, as long as you're getting some CO2 into your lungs, then you're definitely, or you know, or whatever tar you get into your lungs, or herbs or burn, even if somebody were to walk into a burning house and come out, just the the carbon monoxide from that in itself kills people as it is. You know, most fire, people don't, most deaths from a house burning is not usually from the fire, it's from the smoke. And so if we understand just that simple premise, then we would realize that, you know, no matter what we smoke, our body is a temple of God. No matter what we put in our body, eventually the body will break down.
You know, there's something you just said that, you know, I know a lot of guys don't think about. Really, when you burn something, it produces CO2,
Yeah.
right? It
And
doesn't matter
and
what you're burning,
Mm-hmm.
it produces the same thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
And those things are problematic
they
for
are.
your
And,
health. What about booze? What about sharks? You know,
Yeah. So there is some evidence that some red wine is good for the heart, but beyond that, everything else we
what is
do
what
is a
is
stress.
what is
I'm
what is
sorry?
what is what is
how many ounces?
what is good? What quantity is good?
I don't think anybody ever.
And somebody might think a bottle of red wine every night
Yeah.
for my health.
Just a glass of red wine is, you know, something in moderation. So alcohol is not entirely bad if it's done in moderation. Too much alcohol is where the trouble is, you know, from addiction to liver damage to affecting the blood count. Um, and you know, we see a ton of people that eventually has a lot of damage. Even I know of a young lad who actually had a stomach ulcer from it, and had perforation, and died from just drinking. So not even so, we think about is liver, but we forget about the stomach itself, and many other reasons. We forget about blood count, where we forget about nerve damage from alcohol, because low B12, which is part of what alcohol does to us, can damage our nerves. Um, I know people who have early dementia. Dementia is supposed to be in the 80s, and I know people in their 40s and 50s with dementia from alcohol. So there's a lot of more damage to alcohol than it meets the eye. So,
Excellent.
but itself is not a bad thing if it's a glass of wine occasionally.
Let me just say this, so guys, so you can hear. This is not the pastor talking now. This is the doctor saying it. A little wine for the stomach's sake. The operative word is little. Let me ask Deji a question. Deji, so all of this, there's this thing that they say about men. They say you have a dad bod, right? You have a daddy's body. There's a that means that something changes when you become a father, right? So what changes when you become a father? Is it that once the baby comes, they send you a certificate with extra pounds? What happens, and how do you deal with it? As a from a father's perspective.
Yes, thanks for asking that. So I have a 2-year-old, so I'm just now starting my family, and
Yeah, that's
congratulations.
thank you. The time it's time. It's the time. It's before you have time. That 3 hours a day that you have to yourself is almost gone immediately. So the issue is balancing time to actually exercise and do those type of things. I think the second thing is also, I think food, especially in our culture and here, is like a sign, is a sign of socializing and interacting with other people. So I think food is used as a vehicle to socialize, relax, interact with others. And I think once you have that little time to yourself or your wife or your girl, whoever your spouse is and all those things, you want to eat. That is when people go to work, they have that one happy hour, maybe that time they have that their profession, they want to go eat.
Yep.
So that's the problem, that they use food to basically socialize, and then now you don't have time to exercise. Now you're eating more, and that's when dad bod starts. So for me, that Peloton bike, I don't know if you heard of it, is very popular now. They have a treadmill, they have a bike. That was almost my saving grace, because I have a bad hip. I have hip arthritis just from years of wear and tear of working out. And I think I have some anatomy differences in my legs. So I have some arthritis. So I used to always play basketball and run and do all these things. So now, on top of having a family, not having that time, having the limitations in my leg, I have a bike. So I had to find other ways to stay in shape, and it's in my house. So that was my way of kind of getting away from dad bod, was having something in my house and being practical with what I had around me and making adjustments. And it's an hour a day, 45 minutes a day. Brother, our fitness brother will tell us that hour, 45 minutes consistency will go a long way. So for me now, it's a matter of, to be honest, writing it down. It's getting to the point in my life where if I'm not writing something down, if I'm not committing it to my calendar, the same way you may pray at night or you find other things that are regimented, it won't get done. So that's kind of been my solution, and finding things accommodating to my current lifestyle.
Now, what about incorporating play with the kids or with the family? I find that there's a lot of little active things you can do with the family for 15 minutes every other evening. That is exercise.
Yes, my child is my motivator once again, and it's also helping pushing me. We walk outside, I'll move him in the bike. Even there's videos. I'm sure our brother could tell us. Brother Buff will tell us that carry your child. I'm sure he could give you exercise regimen with a 2-year-old, like a dumbbell. I'm pretty sure he could accommodate that type of activity. So there's part of fitness is imagination, and being, being creative and being, that's the cool. You see I watch American Ninja. I don't know if you saw that show. It's a fitness. They jump on obstacles. Brother Buff knows, it's like there's like a ninja competition and it's obstacles. So they'll jump over things. They'll be climbing. And the way they train is in the forest. Mm-hmm. Men are in the forest with no equipment, climbing on tree, chin up, push up, carrying blocks of tree. That's their training. They don't need equipment. Nothing.
I love that. We have now named you Brother Buff.
We're not calling Brother Jude, we're calling Brother Buff. See, Brother Buff.
Brother Buff, I like that better.
I like it. I love it.
A good exercise regimen, as we wind down, what is a good exercise regimen that you would recommend for guys? We have busy work schedules. We've got children. What would you say to somebody in that situation, right? Has a solid 9 to 5, has 2 or 3 kids, after work. What can I do, to...
I think there's a lot. So depending on where you live, what I know about kids, because I'm a youth leader and we have a whole bunch of little kids, they like to do what you do and they can do it almost for hours. You tell a kid, pick me up, they're going to be telling me, pick me up for hours. Like, pick me up. So that's one thing. Another thing, say, hey, kids, let's climb up these stairs, for 30 minutes. The kids will climb up the stairs with you, follow you like a duck for 30 minutes. So climb up in stairs. Or let's say we're going outside, the leaves are falling out. We're raking every day. Find something like that. If you're not going to the gym or anything like that, or even crawl with your kids. Crawl, that helps with the your lower core, keeps your mood lit walking, and also you're spending quality time. And if your kids are very energetic, this is how you get them tired so they can go to sleep. So you can go to sleep as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of different activities that you can do with your kids to not only help you out, but help them out by getting them tired. Yeah. Because like the doctor said, sleep is very important. You actually burn the most calories when you're sleeping. You actually burn the most calories when you're sleeping. Not just sleeping, but resting.
You sleep more, right?
Not like that. I think
I'm just listening.
Right. So there's a lot of things, and like you say, it's part of imagination and commitment. Even in your faith, in your marriage, in your relationship with whoever, in your job, if your commitment is not there, you will reap what you sow. You will reap whatever you sow. So
I want to say one more thing before we leave. I think with the way technology is now, there's so many YouTube, there's videos, there's so many subscriptions, free, paid, that you could do it on your phone. You could put your phone on the ground. Yeah. And if you get the right YouTube people with no weight, they'll give you workouts. So I think even the way the world is now with Planet Fitness and LA, things are changing now that people are trying to be home and focus home. I think the pandemic actually has shifted people's thinking like, you know what? Everything I could do it at my house. Yeah. If I need a trainer, Brother Buff will come and train me in my house. Guys, go anywhere.
Before I let you guys go, I'll just go around the 3 of you and ask you to just one advice that you would give the guys. And I'll start with Brother Buff, Dr. Ayo, and Deji.
Yeah, parting words of wisdom.
Well, my slogan is exercise your faith. And sometimes when we exercise or we don't do something, it's because we don't see results. But sometimes that's what faith is. Sometimes it's just walking without seeing, without knowing. So my advice would be just exercise your faith. Just continue to do what you can, even if you don't see results. Later on, when you keep sowing that seed, you will reap a harvest. And that's just my encouragement. Just exercise your faith.
Love it.
Dr. Ayo.
So, I wanted to sort of wrap up what we've just talked about as far as diet and exercise. I wanted to make a comment, but I wanted the expert guys to do all the talking. I did with some presentation throughout when I was in my training, and we looked over 20 to 30 studies over this past 30 years to see what is the true best evidence of weight loss. Is it truly diet? Is it truly exercise? And so we looked, I mean, I would say between all those research, it probably took us almost a year to look through it. And you're right, it was clear that diet and exercise helps you lose weight, but diet helps you lose weight better than exercise. Exercise increases your cardiopulmonary function more.
What is cardiopulmonary? What is that? What's cardiopulmonary?
So the way you breathe, the way your heart pumps,
okay.
It helps you breathe better. It helps your heart get stronger.
Thank you.
I get carried away too. Sorry.
Okay, it's good.
So the pardon away, my pardon away word would always be, it's good to exercise. It's also good to diet, but diet always works better than exercise. And more importantly is a physical. I always say, please, once a year, and that's all, 30 minutes out of our lives in 365, 366 days, go to your doctor, have your physical, always request for blood work, and always advocate for yourself. Always advocate for yourself. If you feel like you're not being listened to, always speak up. Always advocate for yourself.
Thank you. And DG, parting with the wisdom.
Okay, so real quick, thank you for having me. First and foremost, I really appreciate this. I think having a why, know your why. I think your vision, your mission has to be any goal you have in life, whether it's mind, body, spirit, there has to be a why, a purpose with that. My why, for instance, is my family, and my profession requires that I should be at a certain physical ability to take care of patients. And that's a commitment I made to myself, that I'm going to be physically fit. Back injury is very common in the nursing hospital field. I want to take care of myself. So that's why I do yoga. That's why I'm doing these things. It's part of the reason. And I have young children, I have young child, and I want to be here for them. And I want to be active for them and my wife, period. Now, I'll leave you with the one question. Now, people say they're willing to die for their spouse, their family, their child, but are you willing to stay healthy for your spouse, your children, your family? Everyone always will say, without a doubt, my life is theirs. I'll sacrifice. Are you willing to maintain a healthy lifestyle to do the same thing? That's more important. People die more from cardiovascular, preventable things than all these tragedies that we do hear about that do happen. COVID, all these things happen, but for the most part, it's preventable diseases. So that's my takeaway.
Man, thank you guys so much. This has been an awesome evening. I am very convicted. I'm going to have to make some serious changes.
That's why I wasn't interrupting him. I was like, go right on. You're digging the ditch deeper.
But anyway, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And hopefully we will catch up again, and talk some more about these things.
Thank you. All right. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
I think for me, one of the biggest takeaways was just that thought about prevention, that a lot of these things are actually preventable. And even though we talk about healthcare and the expense and insurance and time to see the doctor and all that stuff, but just think about it for a second. A blood test or a wellness check once a year is so much cheaper than the cost of treating cancer over 3 years, than the cost of chemotherapy.
When you think of how much is a cocktail at a nightclub, guys are spending $100, $200, $300, $400 on one night consuming things that can kill you.
Instead of saying I don't have the time
or the money to go see a doctor. That
does. When you think about it like that, it makes us sound really.
There's a thing that they say where we come from, that it is something that is going to kill a man.
Yeah.
There's a death that a man dies that is extremely unpleasant.
Yeah.
Extremely
and unnecessary.
And the bad part about that kind of death is that you don't die alone, right? You take your family, you know, you put your family through a nightmare, you know, and what is like Deji said, do you love your family enough to stay
Yeah,
healthy?
you know, one of the biggest causes of bankruptcy in the United States is medical care. And you don't get bankrupt by going to do a wellness check once a year. People get bankrupt when they get
a crisis, by
Yes.
a big medical event.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I think this is what they say, a word is enough for the wise.
Yeah.
We've had 1.5 hours of words. So thank you
All
so much.
wiser.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us today. On Sunday, we'll continue our sermon series on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I'm going to be talking about why should I be thankful? You know,
Yeah.
what am I thankful for?
Yeah.
You know, the Thanksgiving dinner is around the corner, and the question they always ask is, what are you thankful for? You know, so on Sunday I'll be talking about one thing that I am very thankful for.
Yeah.
And I know that it will
Bless
it
you.
will bless
Please
you.
join us 10:30 on Sunday morning. Yes.
Yes. And after hearing all of this, be careful how you eat during Thanksgiving. All right, guys, take care and God bless.
You. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.